And we are live.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations integrations. We will talk about different aspects, different options of Microsoft Dynamics 365 for integrating. As you can see on this screen, I'm just trying to show how finance and operations sitting in the middle and talking to many other applications through different options. We are going to run through all these options today. A quick overview about myself. My name is Faisal Farid. I'm a Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations Technical Lead and Technical Architect at DXC Technology. You can reach me in my provided email address, and you can link me. You can tweet me. I do write blogs. You can follow me on my blogs, and you can read through my blogs from this given link. I have been working in Dynamics 365 and AX since last more than 12 years as of now. And specifically into that field, I've been involved in development, X++ development, now FinOps development, and integrations and reporting. I would love to hear back your feedback. So please feel free to provide your feedback at the given link here. I would really appreciate. Okay, so what we have into the agenda today, I'll quickly talk about the digital transformation. Then we will look into the Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations integration options, what options we have, how we can integrate Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations data with different applications. Then how can we have finance and operations data into common data services as CDS? And then we will look at Power Platform from finance and operations perspective. So it's not the talk about the Power Platform in general. It's actually the talk about Power Platform, how the finance and operations is linked with Power Platform at the end of the presentation. So there is a question being asked, and what is the heart of the digital transformation? We know it's data. So now you know the answer is data. Data has been here since ages, since the start. And the technology has been
Hi, Faisal, are you still there? I think your audio's just come in and out.
Can you hear me?
There we go, you're back. Thank you.
Sorry about that. That is, I was talking about what is the heart of the digital transformations. So data. Data has been here since ages, and it has been all the technologies have been evolved, changed. Many new versions have come, new technologies, new solutions have come and gone and got obsoleted. Now today we are of Power Platform, and everything is working on top of the data. So what we are trying to do is all data here, and how we are actually transforming our data digitally. This is we are going to look at this one. First and
foremost thing is action is the most variable here. When you perform any action, this has to be a complete action. This has to be a consistent and correct. So to make it a perfect spot, that is a complete definition of an action. So that is the end-to-end views. So whenever you perform any action, we call these actions here. But when you can say in a software terminology, we say it's a create operation, it's a delete operation, it's a update action. It has to be a complete action on that one. Then your data should be consistent across all the apps. Wherever you are having data into different apps, it has to be a consistent there. And then whatever the data you are having here, it has to be a correct data across all the business apps here. As I said, data is everywhere. So don't keep your data incomplete and insecure. So that is that's what many different technologies we are working on. Microsoft is working on. So to secure our data and to make it a complete data. In order to fulfill this one, as we can see onto this picture here, many people, many different sites, buildings, everywhere, we can see the data is flowing here and there. It's all data here. And everyone is using different type of technologies to secure the data, to use data, to manipulate data. So underline, it's all data. Now, what we have from Microsoft side, that was a generic discussion about the data. Now, what we got from Microsoft side is a digital feedback loops. What it does, it actually allows you to connect data together and apply intelligence to get a deep understanding of business, which does include sales, customer engagement, customer acquisitions, and all backend operations, which are included in all these processes. And on top of that one, what Microsoft does, we can use here as we can use a Power Platform. On top of that one can be used to integrate applications, and while existing the system, making the existing system more powerful, and you can say more powerful and more insightful. Here, what we have here, that is a main thing which we are going to focus today. In a digital feedback loop which Microsoft is providing, as we can see, finance and operations is coming under the umbrella of Microsoft Dynamics 365. All other apps what are sitting over here, marketing, sales, service, talent, these have been the part of Microsoft Dynamics 365, what we called CRM and now customer engagement have been there long. But now what we want to make finance and operations app as part of the same umbrella, Microsoft Dynamics 365, to make it a unified experience here. And in order to bring this particular app, finance and operations, we want to integrate our data between different apps here. Once we will have data over here, we can leverage the power of Power Platform, which includes Power BI, Power Apps, Automate, virtual agents, and then we can use that data to external sources wherever we want to. Not only these ones, once we have this data in here, we can use all these apps from Microsoft, HoloLens, we can use Bing, Azure DevOps tools, anything. We can use all these out-of-the-box tools based onto finance and operations data, because once we will have this finance and operations data according to the digital feedback loop, we can use more data from finance and operations. We can analyze that data, optimize that data, and then we can work on that data proactively. What Microsoft provides here is a complete ecosystem. If we see at the bottom of the screen here, we can see this is the application platform, which is a common data services. That is the main, I would say the main backbone of the whole application platform here, the common data service. On top of that one, you can see there are five pillars standing on here. One, the leftmost is the productivity. The second one is actually the Microsoft Dynamics System Business Apps. Now let's focus on to the Microsoft Dynamics Business Apps first here and talk about the finance and operations. This is now an app within a Microsoft Dynamics 365 business applications. Once we will have this as an app, we can access data across any other apps easily. How we are going to access the data, it will happen through common data services. So we have the common data services as of now to access data across different apps. Third one is actually you have your Azure Data Analytics. It's an Azure Data Lake, Cognitive Services, Cortana, Boot Framework, Machine Learning. You can use any of these technologies on top of Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations data, and you can leverage those technologies also. Not only these ones, if you want to use any third-party apps, Microsoft App Source, or any other data sources, you can directly connect with common data services here and get the data from finance and operations, because the finance and operations data will be sitting into common data services, and common data services is being used by all these different pillars. So last here, we can use all business processes. We can directly connect with flows, automate flows. We can create our apps on top of the Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations data on this one. Quickly, I'll jump on what is actually the common data services here. So there are three pillars we are going to focus here. The first one is that is your focal point of your data, that you will have all your data into common data services. So see, common data services will be doing all the heavy lifting to bring your all data in CDS. Then we have a second option, benefit of common data services is you will have all the data here, all the tools available here to build an intelligence onto your data. Once you will have your finance and operations data, let's say you want to bring your sales orders from finance and operations into CDS, you will have all your sales data sitting into your CDS, and then you can use artificial intelligence, machine learnings. You can create bots on top of that sales. You can do automatic workflows, and you can predict based on to your sales. And then on top of that one, you can create your own customer portals or the portals within Power Platform. So all you will be just getting the data from finance and operations, and you are using the functionalities of Power Platform. The last point here, it actually just work seamlessly with the rest of the Microsoft technologies. As I explained into the as a part of the second point here, you will have your data here. Once you will have your data here, you can use any Microsoft apps, any services to leverage your data. Now, so there, how we can get from finance and operations data into CDS. So you can see here, common data services is sitting in between here. Onto your left-hand side, we have customer engagement. I'm just using a sales as an app here. And then I'm using a finance and operations as an app here. So these are two different apps, both writing back into the common data services. So once both the data is sitting into the common data services, you can use anything on top of the common data services from Power Platform. Common data services, once we will have common data services, this is the admin portal. we will talk about this one in the next slide. Second point is it must have a Microsoft Dynamics 365 or Power Apps P2 license. If you are trying to connect your finance and operations, and if you want to use common data services, you have to have this Power Apps P2 license. What are the different integration options now? So we briefly talked about common data services. That is the first thing. Okay, we will have our finance and operations data into finance and operations. So is this the only integrated way from finance and operations? Are there not only any other options available to integrate your finance and operations data? So the answer would be yes, there are many different options to integrate your finance and operations data with external applications. The first point is we have the OData. We have different customer web services. We can use data management framework. We can use business events. We can use entity stores. We can use bring your own database. We can also use Azure Data Lake and do a write and virtual entities. Now let's talk about each and every point here. The first and foremost is OData. So the advantages, or you can say the power of OData is actually an open source protocol. It actually used to serve and consume all your data using common query operations using RESTful APIs. So you have your API. You can call data from your Excel. You can call data from your Power BI. You can call data through Postman. You can just make a call through OData endpoints from finance and operations, and you can just create. You can perform all operations, which are create, read, update, and data commands. You can perform all those operations using the OData. It's an open source protocol, as I said, and Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations actually provide these endpoints to expose and consume external and internal data. You can actually extend this complete framework. You can write your own endpoints. When I say endpoints, you can write your own data entities, and those can be exposed externally so that any other system which has the capability of consuming the OData version v4 protocol, then it can consume all the data from finance and operations. On the other side, what are the weak points of the OData? When we talked, it's really slow. So it's not recommended to use OData for large volume of data because it's a one-by-one transactional based. It makes a call to the finance and operations, gets the data, and if you want to create an update record back into finance and operations, you have to do one record at a time. And if that record is going to take more than 1 or 2 minutes, so sometimes the third-party application which is making a call to finance and operations, it can be timed out. So it's a record by record operations here. Second option, what we have, the customer web services. So being a developer, that is the option which I mostly used. Yeah, because that is the best performance in all integration methods we have. Everything is written into finance and operations. All the heavy lifting is done by low-level .NET commands, which is internally is also a very lightweight commands, and it's very flexible. You can customize it to every aspect, and then you can write on your own classes, all the classes which will be considered as data contracts, and then later it will be converted your data into JSON and SOAP format as a REST endpoints here. What are the weak points here? If you are not the finance and operations person, not the technical person, not the developer, then this option is not for you because it requires an extensive development. So you must be aware of how the X++ development works. And then the second weak point is the management glitches. So it's sometimes if you move from one environment to another environment, and if you want to keep using these things through an ALM process, so there is no management tool as of now available from Azure DevOps or not from Azure, which you can use for custom web services. So that is the only pain point which I can think of. Then we have the data migration framework. The data migration framework is actually it's very extensive. You can create your own data entities. It provides you all the change tracking features. You can import or export your incremental data. And when we talk about the change tracking and incremental import and export function, that is the out of the box SQL feature, which data migration framework use that feature and import only the changes which you have recently made. So let's say if you have exported 5 records previously, now you only have changed 1 record and you have set up the data for incremental export, it will only export the changes, which is only 1 record. It is suitable for big data integrations. You can import and export the data through data packages. Weak points are it's still missing the modern data formats. Like you cannot export data into the JSON format. You cannot export data into ARF format. And there are few other formats which are big formats known as big formats. You cannot export and import data using those formats as of now. There could be options, and based on to the experience, there could be scenarios where your tables got locked with the parallel execution of the same data. So if you are importing the sales orders and purchase orders from multiple users, or if you are importing the purchase orders from multiple projects within the data migration framework, it will actually sometimes it may get stuck and the tables got locked there. Performance is not too good here again because it actually uses the OData, but you can play around with these performance stuffs using different parameters under the data migration framework. I'll show you in a bit how the data migration framework looks like. Then we have the data migration APIs, which are very straightforward. You can import your CSV files. But it requires a lot of steps in order just to import a CSV files using a direct data migration framework. There are some recurring integrations which can be done through data migration frameworks, and those can be used to import any type of CSV files. Now we talk about the business events. That's the fourth option. What we have, the business events. Any events, any change, any trigger happen into finance and operations, and you want to raise an event which actually say, okay, I have been raised. You say, and then you send data out of finance and operations. You can send data across to your Azure services. You can use a service bus, event hubs, event grids, and logic apps, etc. And you can also write your own custom HTTP endpoints in order to integrate your data from finance and operations. Again, this is not built for large data transfers. This is only for the notifications and just to trigger a particular event. Okay, I have happened. Now go and create that process. Let's say if you are creating a sales order into finance and operations and you said the moment I will confirm my sales order, I want to send a notification to a customer through an email. So this particular sales order has been confirmed now. So now your money is on the way, something like this. But once, in order to achieve this, what we have to do, we have to use out of the box business events. There are a number of business events available out of the box as a catalog. You can enable those business events. You can just configure the endpoints. Where do you want to send those business events, uh, uh, that information externally to the application? Also, you can write your own custom HTTP endpoints in order to send that notification across. But if you are talking about, I have 10 or 15 or 20 customers, I just want to send across that data to as a business event. So business event is not designed for that purpose. So do not use it for the large data transfers. Again, if you are writing your own custom HTTP endpoints, if you are writing your own custom business events, it requires an extensive deployment knowledge. Entity store, that is another option. In briefly, what it does here, Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations has its own database. And if you want to use that database and write your own reports, let's say Power BI reports, on top of your finance and operations database, the way it works, it doesn't let you to connect directly with your own database, which is a finance and operations database. What it does, it actually export all your required data. It requires a configuration, and that is a user configuration you have to do. And you have to define, okay, I want to export only my customers, I want to export only my projects, and I want to export my sales orders, let's say, into the entity store. So you will configure those ones, and then it will be exported into your AXDW database. So from there, what you can do, you can connect your Power BI with that AXW, which is AX Data Warehouse database. You can connect through that database with Power BI, and you can create all your reports there. You will not have access to that AXDW database. That is the weak point. If someone wants to, if customer wants to see, okay, how my data looks like, you will not have access to that database into the production environment. And this is only supported by Power BI. If you really want to use any other reporting tool or if any analytical tool, it will not be supported. It only works with Power BI right now. And it's a read only. What brings us here is bring your own database. As we have seen in the entity store, you will not have access to the production database. So why not you bring your own database? And you say, okay, if you will not give me access, I will bring my database. This is my database. Now, rather than writing into your own database, which was AXDW database, now write into my database, and I will control all the permissions myself. This is less cost-effective option. Then this is required less maintenance here. It's near real time. Then what we have here is so one thing which I just wanted to highlight here is Azure Data Lake. So that slide is actually talking about the Azure Data Lake, but the heading somehow is not correct here. As you can see here, this is talking about the Azure Data Lake. So Azure Data Lake is another option. What it has you will just export your data into the Azure Data Lake. Less maintenance required. Then it is a cost-effective option over BYOD. bring your own database, you have to have your database somewhere into the cloud or into your on your premises. You have to pay for that database size in each and everything. But once you will have your data lake, it will be less costly to you. Then you will ask finance and operations just to export your all your data, required data. Again, it's a configuration step. You have to configure. You can configure. You can say, okay, I want to export my this type of data, my sales orders, my customers, my purchase orders, my account structure, something like this. I want to export this data to my Azure data lake, and it is a near real time, and you can, and it happens automatically through data feeds. So that is a very closer step from Microsoft to achieve the Azure cloud integration, where Azure data transformations like Data Factory can be used on top of the Azure data lake. Only the weakest point which I can think of as of now is it's a one-way integration. So you cannot use, you cannot write back into finance and operations. So that might not be the intentions at all, but that is the only thing which I can think of right now. So when we talked about the one-way integration, now we want to see the data flowing from both ends, from my finance and operations to common data services, and from my common data services to finance and operations. That brought a dual write. It's a new technology. It's at its very early ages right now, still evolving right now. Generally available end of March this year. Only I would say 5 months old right now, because it was generally available on 27th of March or 28th of March. So almost 5 months completed today. So still Microsoft is spending a lot of efforts and making this one more mature product, but it works really well. Dual write has two aspects. One is the infrastructure and one is the application aspect. So I'll show you what does it mean, infrastructure and application aspect. Just keep these two words into your mind. It is a tightly coupled, it's a near real-time app integration, and it also integrates with your model-driven apps from Power Apps. So when I say model-driven apps, it's all including your customer field services, sales, marketing, and so on. It has two modes. It's an online and offline mode. It can work with the offline mode, and then you come back. Maybe a system went down and there was an offline mode. When the system will come back, it has cached all your data and it will send across when the system will come back online. Very extensible. You can write it, you can extend it, whatever you want to. You can extend it. I'll show you in a bit what does it mean, how you can extend this one. Only the weak points which I can think of, there are limitations from the functionality point, application point of view. It's a cross-company data sharing. If you are using your cross-company data sharing, let's say for customers, for vendors, for projects or project groups, let's say. So dual write doesn't support for cross-company data. So it will not let you to start any dual write jobs if that particular data entity or the underlying table of that data entity is being used under cross-company data sharing. There are some performance issues. Microsoft is still working on enhancing those performance issues right now. It's a big step. Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations is actually, you would say, has a complete separate data structure compared to the CDS. It's complete separate data structure. So what Microsoft is trying to do here is actually trying to match as much as possible data structure so that the data can flow easily between both the apps. Now, if we talk about the finance and operations data, again, we are going back to the data here. that was the aim of this talk, the data. So the finance and operations data back into CDS. Different ways we have. We have data integrator, we have dual write, and now we got virtual entities. Virtual entities is not the part of finance and operations, is the part of customer engagement or CDS side. I will slightly touch onto the virtual entities, but will not go into more details into the virtual entities, considering this is sitting in outside of finance and operations. But you can use virtual entities from CDS to pull data from finance and operations. So what's the data integrator? Data integrator is the admin experience, means only the Power admin can configure this data integrator. It's a point-to-point integration service. And then what you have to do as part of the data integrator setup, you have to create your connections. Then you have to define your connection sets there. There are out-of-the-box templates available. You can use those templates as a mapping. Then you have your project sitting over here. This is the way we can create a new data integrator connector here. You log into your Power Apps, go to your connections here, and choose the Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations connection here, and 365 CRM or the C customer engagement connection over here. Once you have these two connections sitting over here, it will let you to create. Go back to the admin portal here. This is where I mentioned this is the admin portal experience. You have to go to the admin portal. As you can see, the admin center here. Sorry, admin center, not the admin portal. It's an admin center here. Then you have to go to the data integration and create a new connection set. Here you have to give the connection set name, and whatever the connections you have already created here, you have to choose those connections from here. Once you are done with this one, these are the first steps, and then you have your projects. What you have to do here, you have to go back to the admin center, again admin center, data integration, and you have to create a new project, and then you can just give the name connection set, which you have already created previously, then name it, and then you can choose all the templates. This third step is not necessarily, it's an optional step, but it's a good step to start with if you are doing the first time the configuration. So you can choose out of the box template, and out of that you can create a new project, and then that's created. So as you can see, this is the project that's created, and further to that one, you can choose all the entity mappings. You can define your formulas there, filters there, queries there, and once you will do the changes from finance and operations to CDS, it will make those changes there. Now let's see, but after we have after the data integrator, we have dual write. Why do we need dual write? First, we need to understand. As we have seen into the previous two slides, there are many manual steps involved, and it's also the admin-centered experience. You will not, everyone will have that much time to configure each and everything by himself or herself. It's an automation era. Everyone wants to automate everything. That experience is provided by dual write here. It's near real time, it's bidirectional, and then data integrator is a one directional. You can set up the directions based onto the end projects there. It can be from FNO to CE, or it can be from CE to FNO. So it can be at one point, it can be of one direction, but dual write is of the bidirectional here. You can use it for your master data, reference data, business documents. Let's look into the architecture behind the dual write. You see here, this is your Power Apps sitting onto your CDS. There are two customers, or you can say accounts in the language of CDS. These are two accounts sitting over here. These are talking to your CDS database. Onto the other side of the picture, we have Finance and Operations UI. It is a Finance and Operations database. sitting over here. Finance and operations got another feature, which is the embedded Power Apps. So what you can do, you can embed Power Apps within finance and operations. And this information is talking directly to the CDS database, which is sitting over here, the Fabric and the Litware. But now this information, if we embed this Power Apps within finance and operations, this information is not consistent. That was the part of our second slide. It has to be a consistent. Whatever the action you will perform on your data, it has to be a complete, consistent. So in order to do so, Microsoft introduced dual write here. And then what it does that magic. It writes data across all the apps, and now your data is actually synced across all the apps. So you will have finance and operations data natively available into CDS here. What the architecture behind this dual write? It's a event based and the plugin based. In CDS side, we have plugins. Any CRUD operation happens, it rises it triggers the plugin. It uses the data mappings from there, and then it calls the OData. That is the thing, because it is the record base. It is a transactional base. It will happen within a transaction. So when I say transaction, it is the database transaction. So in our AX language, we call it TTS begin and TTS commit. So it's a one record at a time. It sends this data across to finance and operations. Similarly, on finance and operations side, we have the same thing. Any changes happen, any create, update, and delete operation happen here onto the entity level. These business logic validations happen, and then this event handler invoke and then send data across to CDS. These are system requirements. If you want to set up your dual write, these have to be fulfilled. PU33 and have to be model-driven app with this particular version. All the setup instructions, how you can set up, all have been documented very precisely and explained very nicely by Microsoft Docs article into this provided link here. In a quickly glance, you just have to provide your Active Directory configurations. You have to set up your Active Directory app IDs into both applications, provide the consent, and then installing the dual write solutions into the CE. This is how the finance and operations look like. If you are not a finance and operations person, this is how the finance and operations look like. You will go to data management module. You will see the dual write sitting over here. The moment you click onto the dual write, you will see the first time you will see this screen. It means like it hasn't been connected as of now. You click onto the new environment. You can choose your environments. It actually lists down all the available environments to your tenant. So you choose your environment which you want to link, and then you choose your legal entities here. You can choose multiple legal entities here. The limitation right now is 40 legal entities from Microsoft side. You cannot link more than 40 legal entities. And then then this is a step. It actually checks each and everything. All these steps have been documented into the Microsoft Docs article, which I have provided link previously. Then you hit next and then see, okay, this is a summary, all my validation passed, and that's it. After you click onto next, the first screen, you will see something like this. It has all the entity maps here. Sorry, before you see this, you just have to apply the solutions into this environment. So whatever the solutions you will have installed there, you will apply the solutions, and then you will see these entity maps sitting over here. You can check the entity map versions. It could be any version here. You can make changes, and you can just change the version number manually. There is no version control here. You have to change it manually, and then you can choose between any version at any point of time. Then you have the entity mappings over here. These are, if you click onto this one and say entity mappings, these are the entity mappings. Looks like within this asset management asset type entity map here. This is a project which has the entity mappings here. These are the FNO side fields. These are the common data services, which we call the customer engagement side fields here. You can check your activity log. Once you run this job, you can check all your activity log here. You can check your initial sync details. What does it mean? Initial sync details is once you will run this data first time, it will copy all your data from finance and operations to CDS or vice versa based on to your setup. You can check you can get all your errors here, catch up errors. If you get any errors in between the running, it gets over here. And last is you can check all the details here. What is the entity name here? From AOT point of view, if we talk about the finance and operations, and this is from CDS point of view. Now, let's quickly jump into a demo here. So this is a finance and operations screen looks like here. And then if you go back to your workspaces, you can see your data management sitting over here. You click onto data management. This tile is automatically available. This is available after PU33. And this is the data dual right sitting over here. I'll duplicate this tab so that we can have a look quickly. Yep. So while this data entity mappings are opening here, I'll switch back to my presentation here. If something is, it's actually asking me to refuse to connect. I'll just. I'll sign out and I'll just quickly check my different account here. Yep. While I'm just logging to my machine from different account there, I'll just continue with my different slides due to the time constraint. Once we will have the finance and operations data sitting into the CDS and CE environment, this is the way you can go back to your CE environment. You can click onto your, you can click onto this little funnel over here, and then you can, I'll just use the highlighter, and this is a little funnel here. You can choose your data entities here and you can result onto that one, and it will show you all the data which has been copied across from finance and operations to CDS. This could be another option over here. You can directly log into Power Apps and then you can use these provided options to look into your data. So what we have noticed here as part of this experience, we have seen the data entity mapping sitting over there. We can use all the directions onto the field level. Then what we have here, the unified experience. This particular diagram actually shows you all the clusters with different apps and CDS platforms sitting in between here. What we wanted to do, we wanted to add this little cluster into the big cluster here from FNO side. Once we did this one, it becomes like that one. and you can see we have used the data integrator and dual write in order to integrate that particular FNO app. And then what has happened here, the CDS platform, it has changed to CDS platform with FNO entity sitting over here. So now it has all the data from FNO also. So once you will have your data sitting into finance and operations from finance and operations into CDS platform with FNO entities, you can use anything from Power Apps and Power Platform features. So this is what we talked about, and what we have the implementation considerations here. So whenever you wanted to implement, or you are planning to implement, keep these points in your mind. It only supports one by one link. It actually supports only finance and operations, one finance and operation to one CDS environment. These two have to be onto the same tenant, and also do not think dual write as a data migration framework, data migration tool, because behind the scene it is using the OData, so it happens onto the record by record, and it happens in near real time. So if you are thinking, okay, I will upload 10,000 customers and then let the user system to carry all those 10,000 customers as an account back into FNO, so that would that would not be the case here. Licensing model here, you do not need to buy dual write separately. It comes directly with a license of finance and operations. But once you will have your data sitting into CDS, you have to have a separate license from the customer engagement app. So it could be, if you want to use your field services, you want to use the project's data from finance and operations side, you have to have the field services app license from the customer engagement side. So that is purchased separately. With this one, before I move into talk about the virtual entities, I'll quickly show you. If I'll just quickly move back to this environment. So let's say if we have configured this dual write over here, I have shown you all through my screenshot, so it's quite similar there. What I have shown you there, it's similar. So if we go back to the accounts receivable, and if we go back to the customers, and if I'll just try to create a new customer here, and I would say Microsoft Reactor Prep, and using the same name here, choosing my customers, choosing my address here, and any phone number you can give. This is how we are creating a customers from FNO point of view. Once you will have these customers created from FNO point of view, and if you go back to the CE environment here, it's a lot of screens open here. So opening the finance customer engagement environment here, going to the app here, checking the accounts. So I will see if this is the right environment. If that is the right environment, I would say all my, not the active, let's say all my accounts sitting over here. And here we go. So this is the record which we get created in finance and operation. This gets created here, Microsoft Reactor preparation here. Now I want to say, okay, I want to change the address here. This is wrong address. I want to add this one, save this record into customer engagement, and all the dual write is running behind the scene. If you go back and refresh this one, address, check the address, so you can see this 555 AAA, it come through. So that is the process here, and few important concepts which we have here. As part of the customer engagement solution, it doesn't have a concept of this legal entities, what we have into finance and operations. And so it has been added here. So as you can see here, if I'll go back and I search my account again here, filtering back to accounts, and this is a company USMF. So that is the legal entity which we have back into finance and operations. So as part of the dual write solution, what has happened here, it has actually installed or added a lot of different data entities into finance and operations, into customer engagement. So I'll quickly go back to the environment. So as you can see, this is the C environment, and if we go back, drop down here, you will see a different companies, different entities have been added as part of the dual write solution. So that's actually what happens. It's actually gets created through dual write solution. So this is the company legal entity here, and that is the part of the dual write solution itself. That is not the out of the box come with the CE solutions itself. So you have to install the dual write solutions, as I did mention earlier. So once you will have this one, and if you go back to your finance and operations side, just closing all my screens here. That's the correct screen here. And this is how it actually links with all the legal entities first. So you have to sync all your legal entities first from finance and operations to CE side, and then it automatically connect with each and every record here. So similarly, if you are creating a new account from CE side, you will see, I would say CE prep here, and while you will be saving this one, it will ask you the company here. So you have to provide a company here. It must be somewhere down. So you have to choose your legal entity, which is a legal entity into finance and operations. You have to choose that legal entity. Then it will create that particular account as a customer back into F&O. So, and this is the honor new concept here. All the security, whatever records gets created. As you can see, this is created by myself here. But if we save this record, and if I just go back here, and I will say, just search for this record which I created earlier, you will notice this is the different team here. So if I click this record, this is the dual write. So that was created by dual write. So all the security from CE side, you have to set up at the team's level. So if you are a customer engagement or CDS guy, you know how to set up all these securities within customer engagement apps, and it has to happen at the team's level. So as part of the solutions here, if we go back to the customization part, you can define all your security from this part. You can go back to your teams. You can go check your users there, and you can also define where you can check your business units there. What happens here now? The last bit, which I just quickly wanted to highlight here, if we go back here, go to the administration, we have a recently added concept here, virtual data entities. What that virtual data entities, you can actually pull data from any external data source, and any external data source can be one of the external data source can be finance and operations. So all you have to define are different different steps, which are very well documented onto Microsoft Docs site. You just need to click onto this set, and then you have to choose your data provider here. And once you will have your data provider, you just need to go back and create a new virtual entity. This is the way you go back to your entities list, create your new entity. I would say prep Microsoft React, something like this, and you have to choose this will be my virtual entity. The moment you will choose your virtual entity, there are few fields which will get be disabled and few gets enabled. And as you can see, you cannot define any ownership onto this virtual entity. So virtual entity, what the concept of virtual entity is here, you will have your virtual entity and it will use some plugins, and it will actually pull data from your external data sources. Data will not be residing into the virtual entities into CE, so there is no replication. So you will not, it's not like this. If I have the credit card information into finance and operations, and I want to use that credit card information into my customer engagement portal somewhere, I will not write data back into virtual entities. So virtual entities, what it will do, it will just get the credit card information from my finance and operations entities, and then just display that data back onto your customer portal or wherever you want to. So it will not hold that data physically. So there will be no replication over there. Prior to virtual entities, we used to write some connectors and plugins. Now, with the power of the virtual entities, we do not need to write any further plugins and connectors. We can definitely write more plugins to enhance the functionalities, but this virtual entities doesn't require any connector now. There are three main concepts you can think of is actually a data provider, which we have seen. Then you have a data source record, and this actually defines the metadata and the schema of the connection parameters. And last is the virtual entity itself. That is the end of my presentation. If you want to read more about all these topics that we have discussed today, feel free to hit all these resources links over here. There are a couple of blog article of my blog. A few of them are in progress. Feel free to follow me onto my blog. So with that one, having said, thank you so much for the Microsoft Reactor for giving me this opportunity and present to the audience. And thanks for all the attendees who have joined me today. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Faisal. Just going through the Q&A, there are a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind answering them for the attendees.
Yeah, sure.
Would you like me to read them out to you?
Yes, please.
Okay, I might do this one quickly. Nazim has asked, can you speak a little about integrations with hardwares like HHD, conveyors, and ASRS, etc.?
I don't have that much experience with integrating with hardware, so won't be able to talk onto that stuff. Sorry.
Okay, awesome. Someone has asked, what about data security? How can we manage that?
Yeah, so data security, if you're talking about data security from finance and operations side, Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations has a very extensive data security and security module, which you can use and leverage all the record level security. It's very powerful from the customer engagement and CDS point of view. Power Platform has its own very robust and powerful security. So you can use all those security features on top of your data.
Got it. What is the difference between Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 and Gen 1?
So this is when you talk about the Generation 2, not sure about the differences, but all top of my head, what I remember is actually the new functionalities. And with the Gen 2, not only you can export data using the data entities, now you can actually export data from finance and operations directly from your tables. So it's not limited to the data entities. You do not need to have all the data entities to export your data, what we currently have, but you can export data directly from your available tables. So that is more features to me. Like I don't need to worry about my entities. You will have data from all the tables. All you need to define your relationships, and you can play around between tables, design or creating your own application yourself.
Sure, and there's also the docs document that Faisal shared in the beginning. I've also posted all the links down in the Q&A chat if you do want to have a look and dig deeper into the Azure Data Lake overview. And Nazim just wants to know if we can redirect him to some documentation where he might be able to get some information on the integration with hardwares.
Yes, definitely. I have put my feedback form at the start of the presentation. So please feel free to submit your questions there, and I will definitely get back to you over emails and questions.
Awesome, that sounds good. I think I'm going to move on, and I'm going to do a quick update on the Microsoft Reactor and a couple of the events that we do have up and coming. So I've just shared my screen. So we did have a question in the beginning asking if the session will be recorded, and yes, it is. You'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/c/Microsoft Reactor. The link is also in the Q&A. This should be up within the next couple of days, and I also post it to the Reactor Sydney event page as well in case you have missed it on YouTube. If you do want to see the events that we do have up and coming, you can find it at our meetup page at Microsoft Reactor Sydney. You can follow all our global events as well on Twitter at Microsoft Reactor. And if you do have any questions about what the Microsoft Reactor is, and if you wanted to get involved in actually doing a live stream, you're more than welcome to reach out to us at reactorset@microsoft.com, or you're more than welcome to find me on LinkedIn as well. So next week, we've got an event coming up called 6 Secrets to Success when Managing Your AI Project. So this session is going to highlight some practical learnings, and it's tailored to those who are new to AI and considering deploying an AI-based solution. So this would be a really good session to attend if you are looking at that. We have another one called Flow in an Hour with Flow Ninja John Liu. So John Liu was one of our Microsoft MVPs, and he'll be taking you through a 1-hour workshop to learn about Power Automate, which was previously Microsoft Flow. And in this session, you'll be able to build an approved workflow, learn about controls and patterns, and debug and resolve errors in Flow as well. And we do have another session next week at lunchtime on OneNote, the bridge between digital and analog creativity. So this session is just going to demo a few features on how you can use OneNote and feed that into the rest of the Microsoft Office suite. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining, and thank you so much to Faisal for taking the time to come and talk to us around Dynamics 365, around finance and operations. If you do have any feedback as well for the Reactor side, I will pop the link in the description for you. You can leave your feedback there. And again, I just want to say thank you to those who have joined, and just remember Faisal's request as well. If you do have more follow-up questions, you can use his feedback link and he will get back to you. So there are no more questions. Awesome. I'd like to say a big thank you again, Faisal. And
all good. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and staying late time. And I would really appreciate all your support and help. And special thanks to all the attendees who just joined from all their busy time. And if you have any question, feel free to reach out to me. If you, I was just reading a couple of questions there. If you are new to finance and operations, you want to learn how to do the developments, you can reach out to me. I can guide you to some extent and share some links from there. With that one, thank you so much and have a great day and good night.
Awesome. Yeah, good night, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's joined us. We'll be in touch and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.